All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this time when I refresh my Twitter account, I see barely 2 tweets that have flown in just freshly. What I want all of you to do is please do share your learnings, because trust me, this is going to be insightful if we get to know, your side of understanding as well. So make sure you're using the hashtag ETBTS and sharing. I remember I asked you which is the best platform feature that you're loving to explore and engage with. Let me know about that bit as well. Right now, I'm just gonna get back to the business, which is, when we talk about COVID-19, we keep on talking about how it has really accelerated the conversation around, say, working remotely, getting connected from anywhere around the world. That is the first thing that comes to our minds when we talk about how we have been escalating day to day and day on day, I would say. Since the pandemic times. So you talk about the AR, VR, how it is just diversifying the virtual business environment through data accessibility, immersive experiences that would, in a way, form pillars of the digital workplace. Yes, we're talking about enabling the digital transformation, but in this session, with a very, very laser sharp focus on how data centers can actually enable that. So we will get this decoded from one of the best in business. Allow me to rope in and warmly welcome with some good round of cheer. I have to remind you that blood circulation is like sort of revamped when you clap. So make sure you're clapping as we're gearing up. Of course, wow, it's of course beyond afternoon, and we would be welcoming the SVP Sales, Marketing, and CEM from STT GDC India. Give it up, some power-packed applauses for Jatinder Singh. Pabla, it's over to you, Jatinder.
Very good afternoon to my friends. Today, I am taking up a very interesting topic, which is about enabling digital transformation through data centers. So today, if you see, India's virtual economy is generating tons. Comes from various sources. It comes from the events like the one we are into. It comes from video conferencing. It comes from gaming. It comes from work from home. It comes from data protection regulations and various other acceleration in consumption, specifically OTT consumption and mobile data consumption. So the bottom line is that all of us, India, the population of 1.3 billion, is generating almost 9636 petabyte of data per month. Now, the interesting point here is, where is this data actually getting stored? Where is this data getting computed? And what is happening behind the scenes? So when this data is stored, processed, and consumed by end users. Now, all this data actually, they reside in purpose-built enterprise-grade data centers. And when we talk about data centers, these are not server halls. These are huge DCs. For example, a single DC today can host almost 5,000 racks. And 5,000 racks will typically correspond to more than 2 lakh 1U servers. And then when you multiply it by 16 core or 32 core CPUs, you will see that very slowly the number of CPUs goes into millions. And we're just talking about one data center here. The one data center also consumes a significant amount of energy, while the green energy contribution is increasing, and it is almost 50% today. But a single data center consumes almost 20 megawatt of IT power, which means almost 35 MVA of raw or total power. So these are huge setups. And to add to that, a DC campus is typically consisting of 3 DCs. And so each DC is holding 5,000 racks. You multiply it by 3 DCs, we're talking about 15,000 racks and multiple millions of CPUs. So that is what goes behind the scene. That is where your data is stored, and that is where your data is consumed. These data centers are essential because, one, they are connected facilities and they're also secured facilities. And they work on the principles of reliability, Availability, most of these data centers are providing availability of almost 100%. Scalability, as I said, you're talking about millions and millions of virtual cores in one DC campus. And there are multiple DC campuses in a city. So you're talking about a large setup of data centers which are all connected to each other. And then, of course, sustainability. When we started this journey, we were at around 30% of green power, and we are nearing 50% of green power, and we are committing, or we have committed to be kind of sustainability models which are getting incorporated into these DCs. So these are large DCs, and all these DCs put together today consume almost 600 megawatt of IT load. So you're talking about a huge infrastructure at the back end, consisting of hundreds of servers, multiple data campuses, millions and millions of virtual cores, and 600 megawatt of IT load. And we're not stopping here. This IT load is doubling. It's actually doubling every 2 to 3 years. So I joined STT around 3.5 years back, and I used to have slides talking about 300, 350 megawatt, and today this slide reflects a 600 megawatt. So that is how this entire capacity is doubling. The Indian data center industry is actually in an exponential growth phase, as we discussed in the previous slide. But what is it which is actually driving this exponential growth? And there are multiple drivers. It is good to have multiple drivers, because then you're not dependent on one of the drivers. Some of these key drivers are something which I'm going to call out. One is, of course, the post-pandemic growth. Post-pandemic, there is an increased adoption of colocation and cloud outsourcing. The key drivers are, of course, the DC requirements, the DR requirement, the BCP requirements, which became very significant during pandemic, and also the work from home requirements, which also became very significant during pandemic. And there has been actually a 13x jump in video calling and conferencing applications. So all these are driving the data consumption and also data center consumption. These are inputs to the growth of both cloud as well as colo, as you can see. So the cloud, which is the public cloud, that is growing at 33% CAGR. So every year it grows 33%. It's a huge market today. We're talking about a 5 billion market in next few years. And hyperscalers, the top 3 to 5 hyperscalers are driving this growth. But what is also interesting to see here is that not only the cloud is growing, but colocation, which is what STT provides, is also growing at almost equal pace. It's growing at 23% CAGR. You would probably be interested in knowing that why colo is growing and why everyone is not going to cloud. One, there are two reasons to that. One, it is a hybrid world, and it will continue to be hybrid world. So 50% of IT infra is still not outsourced. Even the people who are outsourcing, 60 to 70% are using public cloud, but 30 to 40% are still continuing to use hybrid cloud or the colo cloud. So the growth is continuing to be there, and even in future, the colo will continue to be a very important part of the outsourcing strategy of any IT organization or any organization. So the second interesting thing why colo is so bullish is that most of the hyperscalers, when they grow cloud, they leverage colo as their underlying infrastructure. So the cloud growth is also driving colo growth. So, which is good news. So ultimately, the infrastructure is getting outsourced. Ultimately, the cloud is growing at, as you can see, at 33%, and colo is growing at 23%, and this will continue to grow. So these are further strengthened by some real-time drivers like the data sovereignty regulations. We know that there are lots of regulatory regulations and regulatory laws which have come up in India, and also some of them are in process, like RBI storage of payment system data, which requires the compute and storage to be in India, e-commerce policy, personal data protection bill, national DC policy. So most of these laws, if you see, are mandating that a majority of data is either computed in India or stored in India, in some cases both. So that is driving the data center industry in India. Edge is something new which has started driving the momentum. As the mobile subscribers increase, as the 4G and 5G consumption increase, there is an increased momentum towards edge computing. So more and more data center players are opening smaller edge data centers in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which is again driving data center momentum. And of course, the digital transactions. We're talking about $1 trillion digital transaction by 2025, which is almost 1/3 of the GDP. So that is the kind of transactions which are happening, and which is again helping us grow the data center industry. With this, all this growth also comes responsibilities of the colocation players or the data center players, so that they are always ready to serve the needs of the enterprises and hyperscalers. Now, we are proud to say that we are leading in solving the local needs of our enterprises. STT GDC India is the current leader. If you see, we have 30%, which is almost 1/3 market share in India. We have 21 data centers spread across 9 cities, and which is 200 megawatt of IT load, design IT load. And as you can see, both on the market share side, on the revenue, as well as on the IT load, we have around 1/3 market share. And we're not stopping here. We are continuing to grow, and our target is to be double of our current IT load in 3 years. We are also closest to our customers. As you can see, there are 9 cities. We talk about Delhi, Noida, Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, Pune, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Kolkata. So you think about a city, you would find STT's data center there. So we are closest to customers, and many of the players want their data centers to be closest to their premises, because it helps them in latency. It also helps them in reducing latency, and also it helps them in managing and monitoring that entire data center. On the right hand side, you will see that we are continuing to grow, as I said. So we have our upcoming DCs planned in Delhi, NCR, Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, Hyderabad, Kolkata. So when customers partner with us, they will just be assured that not only we are there to serve their current demands, but we will also be there to serve their future and upcoming demands. So that is the India story, but let me also give a little information about our parentage and how we can also help solve some of the global DC requirements of our customer. ST Telemedia is our parent organization. We are part of ST Telemedia and known as ST Telemedia Global Data Center. STTGDC is our short form. So we are all part of ST Telemedia, which is again a directly wholly owned subsidiary of Temasek, and all of us know that Temasek is a portfolio management company of Singapore government. We span across 6 geographies worldwide with 140 data centers with almost 1.6 gigawatt of IT load. And in most of these geographies, we are leading. In China, we have 25% market share. We are one of the leaders there. In UK, we are among one of the top 3. In India, we are the number 1. In Singapore, again, we are one of the top 3. And you will also see us in many new markets like Japan, Thailand, South Korea, and Indonesia. And just yesterday, we announced one more market, which is Philippines. So not only we can help our customers solve the local DC requirements, which is India DC requirements, but we are well poised to solve their global DC requirements as well. So once you partner with us, be rest assured that we will help you solve both India as well as global requirements. With that said, let me also share some good news. There are questions about that, how long this growth can be sustained. Everyone is bullish about Indian colocation market. Everyone is bullish about Indian digital transformation. And we are equally bullish. And that is why we have invested into all this growth. We're also excited because this is a very exciting phase, and all the future trends are pointing to continuous and exponential growth of 23% CAGR. There are levers to that, as I said, cloud deployments, government interventions, everything as a service, rise of AI and IoT. All these are ensuring that the growth continues. What is also critical and interesting to know is that despite all this growth, we are still at approximately 2 to 3% of world's colocation market, and we are projected to double in next 18 months. So as you can see, our share in world colocation market is still low. So there is a huge significant scope of growth. But we also see that while world is growing at 12% CAGR, we are growing at 23% CAGR. So there is scope, there is higher growth, so this market will continue to grow. Lastly, we also know that we are the second largest APAC DC market in APAC, but we also know that there are markets like China, which is growing at 4x to 5x versus India's growth. So the trends are all positive. The digital transformation trends are all there, all real. The government interventions are happening at the right time. The rise of AI and IoT is happening at the right time. We have just started the beginning of this growth. That's what I would say. But the growth continues to be there at 23% CAGR for near future. We have to aspire for a growth of 4x, 5x as China is doing. We have to go to at least 6 to 7% of colocation share in the world market. Well, I think that is a minimum fair share for us, and then we have to grow further from that. So all these trends are pointing towards a very exciting journey and phase. And I just want to give this commitment on behalf of STT that we are invested, we are bullish about this market, and we are there to solve the digital transformation needs of our customers. So thanks a lot. That's all from my side. I hope you found this useful. Thank you.
Well, India generates 9.6 hexabyte of data. That's what you said, Jatinder, if I heard it rightly when you just kick-started your session. That's like a revelation for me, at least. I'm sure all the techies on the other side know about this bit, but thank you so much for sharing the prowess of the data center industry at hashtag ETVTS and how STT GDC India can help our participants at the same time. So thank you very much. And on that note, without any ado, we will be very shortly heading into the fireside chat that will power your transformation with high performing AI, ML, and data analytics. So a lot of tech discussion that's pending anyway. We'll just be back.